Hi, it's Mike, and welcome back to the Mysticsmokers shop. We're working on our 250-gallon build here, and it's time for us to put our door hinges on. We've got the doors cut out, everything looks good. And at this stage, remember our doors are going to be heavier because we've got a pretty good bit of weight here in the door band material that this tank can roll on us pretty easy now. So I would recommend putting some, I just weld some tabs here that I can hook a little chain to, and that will keep it from rolling back, and then do the same thing on the back side to the little rotisserie here just to keep it from rolling. For a lot of years I used a strap just to, sometimes I'd run a thin strap through here, but it'll even slip a little bit then and things can get out of control. If one of these doors falls, it's going to be bad. It's probably going to hurt you or at least tear something up. So these welds are well below the sight line. You're not going to see them. Just knock that off with a hammer when I'm done, and set it off to the side for the next time. So what we need to do now is pick this door up. We'll take it over to the table, and we'll put small patches of the Nomex door seal material on there. Although these doors fit perfectly, there's no rock from corner to corner. The seam is a perfect fit all the way around. Although that seam is a very, very good fit, I still use on all of my cookers a strip of the 1-inch Lava-Lock Nomex door seal material. And the reason for that is, although we do have a fantastic seal all the way around there, when that stack is running at full tilt and it's pulling a lot of vacuum, well, a lot is relative for a stack, but and it is pulling a full vacuum onto this tank to pull that hot air out of the firebox. It will pull some cold air underneath and in between these little gaps right here. There's no way to get the gaps out unless you put some sort of sealing material in there. And my favorite is the self-adhesive Nomex. Several brands out there. I just happen to use the Lava-Lock because that's what I've been using all of these years, and it works great. So what we need to do before we put our hinges on is space this door up the 1/8 of an inch or a little bit less, and I'll explain why in a minute. Space it up so that when we put our hinges on, the door comes down and fits exactly where it needs to. Because if we put our hinges on now and then put the door seal material on, the door won't close at the bottom because it's being held off up there, if that makes sense. So we need to space the door up. Now you might ask, why don't I go ahead and put the door seal material under here? A couple of reasons. One, we're going to sandblast this tank on the inside before, when we get done with it, before we paint it. And two, I want to sandblast the underside of these door bands here. That way that Nomex self-adhesive sticker stuff will stick to the back of these real good. I've got some tanks out there that have been using that Nomex material for many, many years, and there's no problem with it. So if you ever have to put that stuff on a door, on the inside, on a used cooker, make sure that you sandblast that, or maybe use carburetor cleaner or brake cleaner or something on a rag. Clean every bit of grease and oil off of that so that stuff will stick. So another reason I don't put it on there yet is because that Nomex material, although it's 1/8 inch thick, will crush over time. This weight of the door will crush it down, and it will get considerably thinner, maybe even, I don't know, maybe even 25% thinner over time. So, and then our doors will not fit as good as they would if we had allowed for that crush material. So over the years I've learned to just put some patches of that material, maybe 1-inch patch, three areas here, 3 areas there, and across here, and then let the door sit there for a little while and let it crush those small pads in, and that will simulate the amount of crush that we're going to get on our full door band material going all the way around. That's worked well for me over the years, and I think, at least in my opinion, that's the best way to do it. So let me go ahead and pick this door up. We'll get it over to the table where we can put our little spacing pads underneath. Now, a couple of guys have asked, which of these units I'm using. And I happen to be using, I don't know what brand it is. It's hard to even find the brand name on these. You can find them through Amazon or some of the other places. Obviously this door will not max out the maximum lift capacity of this magnet, which happens to be 1,000 kilograms. That's about 2,200 pounds-ish or better. But these things come with a manual that gives you some warnings. When you're picking up curved pieces, obviously that weight limit goes down, or that weight capacity goes down. When you're picking up thinner pieces, that weight capacity goes down. So just a word of warning, when you're buying one of these, I get the strongest one that I can find, because obviously its capacity is going to be reduced by the curve, although the bottom of this magnet is curved, which some of them are not. So if you're going to be picking up curved surfaces, I would look for that. And two, the thickness of the material makes a huge difference on capacity for these lifting magnets. So thinner material, it almost won't pick it up. It doesn't get enough magnetic pull from thin material to do it. It really likes at least 1/4 inch material and thicker. And you have to have your surface clean. A lot of paint, a lot of grit and grime, maybe you get some stuff stuck to the bottom of the magnets right there, will reduce its capacity. So even though I am sure that this magnet is going to handle this door, I still don't let myself get anywhere near it. If it comes off, it's going to come off fast, and you don't want to be underneath it. All right, so this door is just sitting in here right now. I should have shown you this before I moved that door out of the way. The door is just sitting in here. There should be some gap side to side. So there you can see, I'll roll up and get the chain tight. You can see it goes up about 3/16 of an inch, and I should be able to move it from side to side about 3/16 of an inch. So what we want to do ultimately, before we weld our hinges on, is get this door in the center of that gap. In other words, I want it about a 1/16 here, and about a 1/16 here, and of course there. I want to split the difference all the way around. So that's going to be very easy for us to do. All we're going to do is take a little piece of 1/16 shim. I'll use balsa wood in this case since I have a lot of that. And we'll just tape a piece there, piece here, piece here, piece there. Not on the other sides, just here, 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 and here. Set the door in there very gently, kind of on that way. And then we'll pull this door up against these two, and then we'll pull it down against these two. And that way we know we're going to have a 1/16 off of this wall and a 1/16 off of that wall, which of course should give us the exact same on these two walls, and our spacing will come out just right. Okay, so I've got 4 little strips of 1/16 balsa here that we're going to put here, 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 and here, and then of course some tape to hold them on. The inside of this tank is very rusty, so we're just going to scratch. Just knock just enough off that rust flake off to let our tape stick real good. So put a piece of tape here and find our nice slit spot right there, and just tape our little shim spacer in place. And that's all that takes. So now we'll push that door against these, push it down against these, and that should give us the right gap all the way around. Now we'll move over to the actual door itself, sitting on the table, and put our little square pads of. Okay, so we can see the underside of the door here where I put those little patches on there. I ended up putting 4. I use the 1/2 inch. I've got a bunch of 1/2 inch that I really don't like. I like the 1 inch, but I'm using the 1/2 inch stuff up as the patches. So I put 4 on one side, 4 on the other, and then 3 on the side. So All right, let's get this moved over to the tank. So now we're going to pull it down against the bottom. Remember, we have a shim here and a shim here, and we have a shim here and a shim here. So we'll flip this way and then push it back against those shims over there. So we're pushed that way and we're pushed down. So that's where we want that door. So let's lock it down. All right, so we're going to use threaded rod to help us align these hinges when we put them on. And there's not a whole lot to that. We're about to walk through it. So I like to use 1/2-inch threaded rod. We will thread the hinges onto here, snug them down, and then use this to hold them perfectly still while we tack them in place. But first thing we need to do is figure out where on this threaded rod we're going to put them, roughly. It doesn't have to be exact. And I like to have my hinges in on this size door. This is a 31-inch door opening, and for this size cooker with this size door, I like to run my hinges about 4.5 inches in from this side. And you know, you can put them wherever you want. You don't want to get too close where it can pivot. You don't want to get too far out where it just doesn't support in the center. And that seems to be about a happy medium, happy compromise for me. And that's where I've always put my hinges there. So 4.5 inches in there, and 4.5 inches in here, and that's where I'm going to set those hinges. So just to save me a little bit of time, I'm going to take this threaded rod, kind of split the difference there, eyeball it, and just put me a mark there and a mark here, and that's where I know I'll need to at least rough start with my hinges, putting them together. So let's move over. Okay, so I need to run these in, the two inner ones, down just a little bit past our marks. And then put a vertical piece on, the small piece of the hinge, then a washer, then a horizontal, larger piece, another washer, another vertical piece, and then just run another nut down against it. All right, we'll do the same thing for the other side, and then I will build a set for the other door as well, because we will want to put both of these sets of hinges up at the same time so that we can sight down and make sure that everything is lined up exactly right, so that it looks nice. Okay, I've got both of our threaded rod setups made, and I've already got that one in position. And after looking at it, I think I'm going to try moving out just a bit, which puts me from the outside edge, and I like measuring from the outside edge because it lets me use the little square here to quickly locate that. That one came to about 5 3/4 to the outside of the 2-inch band material. So I like that. I think that's a pretty proportional look, and I'm going to try that this time. So let's see, I've got that side. Let's go ahead and pull this side over and see if that'll give us enough thread to do this side. It's easier to see this side. I'll move this one out just a bit. There we go. Now I'm going to set this one right there. and see what this one takes. And we need to move out just a little bit. So that's just as simple as loosening this nut and then pushing the assembly over with this inside nut. And double check, because I know I moved that around a lot. That's in position. And holy crap, I hit it just perfect. I could probably go about a 1/16 of an inch. So nice thing about this is you can micro adjust. And now we are exactly perfect there. Exactly perfect there. Here. And finally on that one. So we're good to go. And what I'm going to do is put just a couple little tick marks down here so that I don't have to remeasure if they come out of position just the littlest bit. So the next thing we want to do is get these things lined up. We'll snug them down. Just hand tight is good enough. And now the issue becomes how far back do we go? Well, this is 2-inch band material, 1/4-inch band material. And that's all that I use on any of my Mysticsmoker cookers. So that gives us plenty of room that we can move this hinge back and forth to traverse that 2-inch band material. We've got plenty of crossover there. So I like to go back about 3/16 of an inch from the back side. And that looks about right there. And let me set this one down here to about 3/16. That looks good there. And we're going to look down to make sure that our hinges are aligned perfectly, and they look pretty darn good. Let me grab that camera so you could look down that. And that looks pretty darn good. It's hard to get the camera angle exactly right. There we go. And we'll look down, get down just a little bit. And we can see that that's a perfect alignment across there. So I like that. Now I will go ahead and get these tacked in place and actually weld it up, and then we'll look and see what we have. Okay, I've got the doors tacked on, and I've taken the straps off. I have not tested them yet, so cross your fingers and hope that everything works good. It will. So let's give it a try. And we're chained down, so it's going to move just a little bit, but it can't go far. And be gentle, because we're just tacked on, right? And make sure that you don't let it go, because we don't have door stops on yet. And I like that movement. It's very smooth. Oh, I like that door. I like that door closure. That sounds really good. So let's check this one. It's really smooth. It feels really good. No binding. That's a really smooth closing door, operated and closing door. So I'll go ahead and weld these up. Make sure that when you're tacking these on, you use good tack discipline. In other words, what I like to do is tack here, on the other side, tack here and here. So alternate those across so that they don't want to pull. Of course, it's all bolted together, so theoretically it should move, but it can. So just be diligent in your tacking. Small tack so that you don't put a lot of heat on there and you want to pull it out of position. And once you get it all tacked up, it's fair game. You can go ahead and weld it. And I will actually pull these so that I can weld them downhill a little bit, run a little faster, and that'll help keep the heat down on that door as well. All right, so at this stage, it's just a matter of pulling our threaded rod off. And replacing the rod with bolts. and I like to push it through like that so that my washers don't fall out of position. Looks like my deer are wondering where the food in the feeder is. A little upset about that, I guess. I'll have to get out there and do my job. And I like to use, on all of my cookers, I use new stainless steel bolts when the cook is finished. Obviously, these have been painted many, many times. These are the ones that I use just to build with. So I like to put new ones on once I'm completely finished, and that way they're nice and clean, not full of paint, and not all galled up. So at the end, that's what this tank will end up getting. So there we go. And on the new ones, I'll actually take a cutter and cut that back. I like using the 2-inch. Where'd that bolt go? Here it is. I like using the 2-inch bolts, or maybe even longer, because the shank of the bolt sticks out, the shoulder of the bolt sticks out enough to catch these parts. The bolts that I actually put in will be longer than this, so this shoulder of the bolt will be about that long, just long enough that it captures all of these pieces. It's not going to be a problem if it lands on the threads. It's just, you're going to get just a little bit more wear on the bolt as time goes by if you let it land on the threads, because obviously there's less material there than on the shoulder. So I like to buy bolts that are just a little bit longer and then cut them off. But of course, we've got at least 3/4 of an inch, because these are 3/4 pieces, and then the 2 washers, however thick your washers happen to be. So just make sure that your shoulder doesn't extend out further than that, or your nut won't go all the way down. Or you can just put a die on it and thread it just another 1/8 inch or whatever you need. But I have done that in the past when I couldn't find the right size shoulder, the right length shoulder. But anyway, pretty self-explanatory. All right, we've got our door hinges on. They came out really nice. The action on the doors is very smooth, no noise at all. And when you shut the doors, they shut with that nice thud rather than a metallic sound where something is metal on metal there. So I like the way they turned out. And if you use the threaded rod and do it the way we did in the video, they will always turn out nicely. These doors are about as perfect seal as you can get all the way around, and I think that is a tribute to proper layout and being careful to keep our temperatures down, not to warp the door welding the bands on, not to warp the door with the hinges, just being very careful with our welds, keeping everything cool. And in my opinion, using the either the grinder or a saw that cuts cold goes a long way to keep the tank from flexing. Even though this door is sealing perfectly, a lot of guys will ask me, well, Mike, if your door is sealing so well, why do you need to use the door seal material that you always use? And the answer is pretty simple once you think about it. Even though our surfaces are mated up just about as perfectly as you can get them, and this one is a very nice fitting door, even though it is fitting so well, we're never going to stop cool air from being pulled in some of these areas around where the metal to metal just doesn't make a perfect seal or doesn't make a real good seal. And a lot of guys will tell me, they'll say, Mike, my cooker doesn't leak once it gets hot. When it's warming up, it will leak some smoke from here or there, out of the doors. But once everything warms up and swells or expands, it stops leaking. And I can't help myself but chuckle sometimes and explain to them that's not actually what happens. We're not sealing up because the surfaces are warming up and mating together better. What's happening is when the system is cold, that smoke going through the inside of the cook chamber is higher pressure than outside because it's warmer inside than it is outside, and the air is being pushed to an extent. That smoke will leak out in some spots. But once the temperatures get up a little bit higher inside the cook chamber, and certainly inside the stack, then that hot air starts rising in the stack, and we'll start pulling a vacuum. The stack will start pulling a draft through the system. And once the air pressure inside the tank is lower than it is outside the tank, then obviously we're not going to be leaking out, but we will be leaking in. So all of that smoke, those areas that was leaking smoke out, those areas you can guarantee are now leaking in. And the problem with cold air leaking in is it's one more variable that we have to deal with, and it's very difficult to deal with because those leaks are not uniform. They change with the temperature of the cooker, and that kind of makes sense too, because consider that our stack is the engine that drives this entire system, right? It drives it off of the vacuum or the draft that is pulled by that hot air shooting up the stack, trying to get out. So as that stack is pulling that air at warm temperatures, or say, for instance, 220 degrees, it will pull a certain amount of vacuum or draft through the tank. In other words, the air pressure inside the tank will be a certain amount lower than it is outside, and you'll get a certain amount of leakage. Well, if you heat that stack up, we're obviously going to be pulling harder. The vacuum pulled or the power from that stack is actually increased, and now we're going to be pulling more air through. And there's really no way to predict that. And it's just one more variable in our cook that is so easily eliminated by having good sealing doors to start with, and then using door seal material of whatever type you want to use to completely eliminate the possibility of leaks, and then it's not an issue for you. So I know that's a long way to get there, but that's at least my logic and my reasoning for using the door seal material. So let's move on to the next episode, which is of course repairing the bungholes, which are on the back side here, and then we'll get into, and that's probably a short video, that shouldn't take long at all. Then we'll get into building the collector and of course joining the firebox. So I will see you in the next episode, and if you enjoyed the video or got anything from it, please hit the like or and the subscribe button. Those two buttons go a long way in the YouTube algorithm to help rank the videos, so that it makes it easier for everybody else to find it when they're searching. So if you like the video, hit like and hit subscribe. The subscribe button will notify you when new videos are coming out, new episodes are coming out. So I will see you in the next episode.